My father was a musician. Masculine is interesting energy because the strength of divine masculine is absolutely potent and indivisible, regardless of the state of the physical vessel, right? And one of the symptoms of wounded masculinity is the over investment in physical strength. I think I said that right. And endurance, right? I say this because for the entirety of my lifespan, until my father transitioned, he was ill. I do not have memories of my father where he was not in and out the hospital on oxygen tanks in a hospital bed. But even though I realized that had to have been a humbling experience for him, I think he would be pleased and honored to understand that he was the strongest man I've ever met. And yeah, and he is in a lot of ways the benchmark where I measure masculine energy to. My father was a musician, right? Brilliant man. We had surround sound in the 80s. That was not a thing. He just had understanding of sound, you know. I grew up in at least my formative years, was a very musical household. I can remember one day I came into his room because he had his own room because oxygen, oxygen, medical bed, that sort of thing, right? I come into the room and this day he was resting, and around my house there was all sorts of handheld instruments, exactly my father's. There was all sorts of handheld instruments, cowbells, triangles, tambourines, maracas. My house was a very musical household. I can remember sitting in the floor and going into his drumstick bag. Yes, he had a tote filled with nothing but drumsticks and handheld instruments. And I can remember digging in it, and he was sleeping, right? And I began playing, lay the cowbells out, and I began playing them. My mom comes in the room, meaning my father's resting. My mom comes in the room like, stop making all that noise. You see your father sleeping. He said, leave my baby alone. She turned and left the room, and he laid and he rested as I sat and played the cowbell and banged on the triangle. It had to, I want to say two things. That the little girl who was doing that felt like it did not sound the way I hear others play it. It did not sound the way I wanted it to, right? And I'm trying not to carry that narrative over because of the meat and potatoes of this video. The reason why I'm sharing this story, because as you know, hopefully, and if you're new here, go dig in and see. We have been discussing sound. I have been analyzing audio here. I realize now that I understand singing bowls and metals and sound and vibration, as I sat there and banged these metal things as he rested. I was encouraged. I was encouraged to make note of this because it is one of those things that is math correcting. You come here I'm going to say as you leave here. You come here the same being that you are when you leave. And so the closer you get to who you were in those formative years, the closer you are to being finished. You're checking things off your to-do list. The God within me is grateful for the ancestor that was the child that is me. The God within me is that child. And I remember her stories. And I honor her by sharing them. The God within me is a little girl playing cowbells. Namaste, my love.